All aboard!
Stand up for your property rights.
Right. Stand up for your property rights before they get taken away. MTC wants to rezone your property to stack and pack housing. They want to take away your decision on where you're going to live and how you're going to live. A transit authority is going to make the decision for 9 million people. They say it's you choose. It's not you choose. It's they choose.
Local control over your own property.
We want equal justice, not social. Hey, if you want to ride a bike, go ride a bike. Don't make the rest of us ride bicycles or walk. Control. Life is about choice. We want our freedoms of choice.
MTC don't speak for me. MTC don't speak for me. MTC don't speak for me.
Many problems that we have aren't just confined neatly to the city of Dublin or neatly to the county outlines of Alameda, but we have problems that cross county lines. And really the best way to be coming about solving these problems is if we come together in working to a solution that not only affects Alameda County, but just, I know the next city right up the road here is Contra Costa County, Santa Clara County my direction. So we are linked. In fact, Scott and I were talking about today at a meeting at MTC that, how, as some commissioner, I think from Sonoma County was mentioning how pleased he was to find out that Santa Clara County and Alameda County actually were working together on something called BART to San Jose. So that's a perfect example where counties can work together to see something come out for the greater good. So again, I encourage your individual participation tonight from the various groups. I know that we have a wide spectrum of groups out here tonight. I'm glad that on a Wednesday night that this type of participation is showing. I think Scott was right in that tonight's meeting is in Dublin. I think the Contra Costa County meeting will be in Richmond, if I'm correct. So we're hitting different parts of the Bay Area, different demographics. And again, the idea here is to get constructive participation tonight. I know you have different stations to go to. After this introductory part is over, I will be going throughout the various places to see how things are going with myself. So with that, I want to turn this over to Lou Hexer, who's going to be the facilitator for tonight's meeting.
I have a question.
Lou?
I would like to know what social justice is. You said at the MTC meeting on June 22nd, you said you would tell us what social justice was. Mark, you asked the staffers to define it. Nobody seemed to know. I would like to know.
Disturb the meeting.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tom McCarthy. I'm the police chief. Sorry, we're over capacity in the room. If you do not have a seat, please get a seat. We can't have standing in the staircase style there, everything. That's why we have the lobby and the regional room open there.
We're in a bigger venue then.
I didn't arrange the venue.
Hold on. Here. I'm in a
Then
chair.
get the stakeholders out of the meeting.
Hold on.
Stakeholders don't leave.
Look, we
This is a private meeting. Stakeholders should leave.
Okay, that's great.
Get a bigger venue. That's right.
I have
They
smoking
already had their
seats.
chance for
I have
input.
smoking seats. You know what, ma'am? What you have to say is really important.
You know what, you
And I
can't make
sincerely-
public leave. You should
I
let the meeting,
sincerely
social justice,
believe
and all the
what
people
you
who've had
have-
access to the advisory meetings and working groups. This is an input meeting for the public.
I sincerely believe that what you have to say is important.
It is.
I think the way you're doing it is wrong.
Well, if
There's
you're
a
going to
lot of
ask me
people
questions,
here. Hold on.
I'm just saying you
There are a
should
lot of
ask people to
and
leave.
there's a lot of people here. I've asked
He is.
available over
And if you think
I have spoken to
sometimes
you,
you
we're
should
happy
ask
to.
me the meeting room.
Mr. Haggerty, can I say something? And could you pause for a minute? The
Can you
reason,
just give me a few minutes?
the reason I've been to 2 or 3 of these meetings, I used to work in Silicon Valley. These meetings are so ill prepared. When you come to these meetings, you come to a fight. If you bring up an idea in a meeting in Silicon Valley, they hear you, you work through it. These people are not listening. They're coming with an agenda. You need to know that. You can't know that if you haven't been to meetings.
But you need to understand,
But I only said that
you're
because
only going to give me a minute to try to calm this down, and then it's just going to get ugly.
Okay, I understand, but do you hear what I'm saying? Because you haven't been to those other
What
meetings,
we
have
need to
you?
do
You're
here.
the one that's ramping it up. He's just asking. He's asking
I wanted to
questions
respond to
only.
him.
And you're saying it's going to get ugly.
Let him respond to me, please. Let him respond to me,
I'm
please.
not threatening. Okay, look, there's a lot of people here, and I'm happy that you've been the way what'd you say, 3 meetings?
3 meetings.
Okay, I'm happy that you've done that. There's some people that live in this community that have not been to one. Okay, and they really want to hear the report. I am all for everybody being able to.
One of the
But now's
things,
not the
Scott,
time because they don't know what we're talking
Why
about
don't we
yet.
move the meeting
You have
then?
the ability.
Please
Why do I
address-
have to move the meeting?
please address this one more thing.
So you can accommodate the public.
Yes.
Scott,
All the public, not just the ones that were privileged to sign up. Everybody.
Mr. Haggerty, the issue is that we have proposed some things. They promised that they would get back and put those on the agenda. When we read the news report on the New York Times and from the Bay Area, you know what we got? All of us are not Tea Partiers. What we get is this negative, wait, this is what they call us. They call everybody, you're a Tea Party, like that's some negative thing. I don't really give a damn about that. We want to be heard. And why aren't they hearing and putting, if you answer that question here, which you're answering is a small idea or diversity of ideas. We want to be heard. We deserve to be heard. We have the right to be heard.
And I think I'm doing it.
And that is why, Mr. Haggerty, that is why, in summary, why this is all going on, because the people are being told to sit down.
There is a lot of people in this room that do not even know what we're talking about yet. Why don't we get to that point, and then why don't we comment on what we're talking about? Thank you. Here, here.
Yes.
Social justice, just do that. Simply explain social
Just
justice.
explain social justice. You said last year you would
I
explain
want
it.
to take care of the fire code first of all. If that's the most important thing, or we are going to. It's my job to be the moderator tonight, and I want to thank all of you for coming and giving your time to us and attention. As we know, there's been a lot of interest in the plan, in Plan Bay area and its development over the past year and a half, and that's reflected in the attendance we're seeing at these workshops. And last spring, we started the public outreach process around Plan Bay area with a series of county-wide workshops. I'm just curious, how many of you attended one of those workshops back in May that was part of that initial outreach? Okay, some of you did. Many of you, it looks like, were not part of that outreach. So again, tonight what we're trying to do is balance the opportunity that we have to inform you about Plan Bay area, what it's all about, what its objectives are, what its constraints and opportunities that we're dealing with in this, just to inform you about that. I know several of you have been following all along and are very well versed in some of these things. So we want to recognize that there's a wide spectrum of information and awareness about Plan Bay area. So we're trying to respect that and bring everybody up to speed with what's going on. Third station, do you have a question?
I have a question too. Before the video starts, if we can, Mr. Mark Green said that only quality of input. So if 1,000 people say, I do not want that in my city or whatever, or they say yes or no, that doesn't really matter. It only matters the quality of the input. So if one person has a quality that agrees with his quality, that's okay.
I don't want to really open the floor up for questions right now because we.
I mean, that's a simple question. That's a simple question. If my quality agrees with his quality,
Conversation
No,
is
I think that is not. I think that is an opinion. Let me finish with what we're doing right now. There will be plenty of time for questions.
You don't want input, you never did, you have a plan. This is indoctrination.
SB 375, means of the Bay Area. The law requires 2 regional agencies, the Association of Bay Area Governments and Metropolitan Transportation Commission, to develop a 25-year plan that links land use, housing, and transportation planning.
How we plan these areas is ultimately up to local governments.
Once again, there's going to be plenty of time for you to ask questions.
People need to hear this before they vote.
You have a chance to ask questions. You can't just indoctrinate. You have to
I'm going to
ask.
ask for order. We're not going to have a
What does social justice mean? Where the money's coming from?
one question at a time.
the information that we wanted to share with you in this introductory session, and we move through the stations. You'll have chances to ask questions. Right here we are. Excuse me, it's really difficult for people to hear when you all are shouting. Okay, so please, all right.
Hey, can I say something? Can I just say something real quick? Can I just say something real quick? Mayor Green and I really sensed some frustration amongst some people in this room. And what we have decided to do is, and because I was a little bit amazed, it's not on the agenda, but Mayor Green and myself have decided we will stay with the recorder. 8:05 shows adjourned. we're going to stay and we're going to take public comment. We'll give everybody a couple minutes to speak. We will take the questions. We probably can't answer them all for you tonight. We will take the questions and then post the answers to a website. And what we're trying to... That's the best I can do. I don't have all... So if you guys...
It's going to be uninformed voting without public input that can be heard right here, right now.
I'm going to say, you're going to do it in this room for everyone?
Okay, so one of the things about this process...
It's already said we have. We've heard it before.
Winter public outreach is what we're doing right now. And then in May of 2012, this spring, the ABAG and NTC boards will be adopting a preferred scenario. That scenario will undergo some further analysis, and there will be a release of a draft plan for Bay Area in the fall of 2012. Again, another milestone that will signal an opportunity for the public to review and provide input and feedback on that draft plan. From the fall of 2012 to the spring of 2013, which is the milestone that's expected for FTC and ABAG to adopt the plan, there will be further opportunity and outreach for people to comment on the plan.
Hey, put us on in
Those are the milestones. So, once again, the supervisors kindly offered to... I'm sorry, we're going to go through this agenda.
I can't hear what you're saying.
I'm trying to speak as loud as I can. I will ask everybody to please not speak while I'm speaking.
To your station.
This is our agenda tonight. I'm sorry.
I went to your stations before in another meeting. Some lady asked about private property. They said they would get to it when we got to our station. When we got to our station, we were a table of, I don't know, 8 people. A couple people asked about the private property. They were not prepared to answer that question. The problem is, he's already defined stakeholders as anybody in the community.
If they're not prepared then, I think we should hear about it here now, right?
Yeah, I could.
All right, you're welcome to participate or not participate tonight. That is your choice. So, Station A, you have an A, you can start an A, go to B and C. Station A is around the corner, it's the regional meeting room. One other housekeeping thing before everybody leaves, I keep forgetting, people are worried about safety. The exits, I think, are fairly well marked, but also restrooms, a little bit harder to find. They're outside, through the lobby, around the staircase, and pretty much under the staircase. So, not easy to find, but that's where your comfort stations are. Station A is clearly marked. Station B is in the lobby. That's where we're talking about land use choices. And in this room, Station C, we'll take public comments. The ground rules are, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. I'm going to ask for strict adherence to that policy tonight. Okay?
We're still going to be there like 10 o'clock. Protesters? A hell of a name, man. All right. This is
Vision people are a lot nicer than these folks, aren't we?
What's social justice? What is social justice? What does that mean?
I'm not saying
What does that mean? Race-based legislation? You're going to redistribute the wealth based on people's race? That's against a violation against Title VI. Did you know that? We're not supposed to be doing that. It's not in SB 370. I want to know what it is. I've asked you for a year.
I know.
What is it?
Social justice?
Yes, what is it? Smiling. What is it? Tell me.
We don't have a consensus definition on that yet.
You don't know what it is, but everybody wants it. Isn't that funny?
A lot of people
Nobody can tell me what it means, but yet everybody wants it. Got to have social justice. I thought our country was built on equal justice. Justice is supposed to be blind. It's not supposed to be based on the color of somebody's skin. If you're low income, does it matter if you're low income?
You'd be happy?
Does it matter if you're low income?
Right?
No, I want to know what you are advocating for social justice. I want to know what that means. Social equity, social justice. What does it mean?
I would say that would mean that everybody has an equal opportunity. That's what I would say.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yes, it is.
That's not what it means, and you know it. You know it. You and I both know that that's a lie.
You wanted what I wanted.
No, I want to. Yeah, you're lying right now.
It was a proper role of government to tell people to empty out the trunks of their cars so they can get less greenhouse gas production and inflate their tires. You stood there after a meeting and talked to me about that. That is not the right role of government.
That's private.
Those were suggestions
No, they
to
weren't.
improve gas mileage, if you
Those
recall.
were choices that were given to us in the first round of meetings, because I was there.
And other choices
All
are
of our
not.
choices were made up and given to us by you guys. Even those choices, we were not able to input our own choices, and those were not put into the plan.
This is not about the environment.
Well, let's face it.
All of
You
this
gave
is
us the
about
choices,
getting
you gave us the
GHG waivers.
decisions.
They don't have to do any calculation
You're railroading
on
us.
GHG.
I would not call this a railroad
Oh,
job.
you bet it is.
I would not
You
call
bet
it.
it is.
I would not call it.
Is that right?
That's exactly right.
There's no option in any of the voting to say, let's not do it. There's questions that are ambiguous, so
you
they
could-
asked me.
you could say-
They asked, should we?
Well, here's the option about not doing anything, is that we do have to come up, unless you want to change the state law. I mean, that's the option on that one.
Maybe that's what we should do.
Well, again, that's another, that would be the option that you have. The option that we don't have that option not to come up with a plan.
You have the option not to create
No,
a
we
plan
don't.
that
We do not.
from
We
my
have to come up with a sustainable community strategy plan. That is whether or not you like state law, that's one thing. If you want to change state law, I would say go to Sacramento.
Tell me what social equity means.
I'd like to know what it is too.
So the strict legal interpretation is providing the same environmental and transportation benefits to all population groups, all income categories, and all minority groups. So every person in society has access to opportunity.
There's nothing in SB 375 that says anything about social equity. I've read the bill.
SB 375
It says
calls
equity. It says economic equity, income level. That has nothing to do with somebody's skin.
and that regions have to plan for housing across all income categories, from above moderate to very low.
That's not social equity. Social equity is defined as someone who is a minority. And you know it. You guys know this. Yes, you do. You were talking. Everybody talks. You guys, oh, we need social equity. We got to have social equity. But all of a sudden, nobody knows what they're talking about.
Well, I just gave you.
But it's not. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. And you know it, and I know it. You know it. It is not the truth, and it's not even in the bill. So you're now advocating something that is not in the bill. Social equity.
There's a lot of information on the website about equity, and it talks about some of the details of what it is. It deals with it deals with it in terms of communities. It deals with it in terms of income categories and access to opportunities. It doesn't guarantee that everything changes for everyone, but it's about access to opportunities for all people. In the
Have you ever heard of equal justice? I can't read the person next to me mine.
I've heard the term equal justice. Yes.
Well, yeah, justice is supposed to be blind. You know, you guys are violating Title VI. Title VI says you can't make decisions based on race, color, gender, sex, religion, and you are. You're making legislation based on people's color.
I'm afraid we're not.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You are. You've got a social justice, social equity, social justice committee, advisory group.
Yeah, and an
And that's
environmental
all
committee,
about
and
the
one
black
for the
community,
business
the Latino community. And it's all about what color of skin you are. You don't have a white. Well, I mean, what difference does it make what color
there are
you
white
are?
people on the social equity committee.
Okay, but it's all about minorities. So, you know, you're looking at people's color of their
No,
skin.
it
It's a
also
Title
looks, it
VI
also looks at
violation.
geographic location, communities of concern, and it's largely about income.
I've seen the Title VI, okay? It's all about, what you're doing is legislating and advocating legislation based on people's race, and it's wrong. And nobody will admit to it. I mean, if you're going to do it,
it's
then
not-
tell us that you're going to do it. Don't lie to us.
We're going to try something different here, because my sense is that the people that are here are not going to go to breakout rooms. So why don't we take public comment now? And why don't we sit down, and I want to get your question. I want to hear the questions.
Who are you?
I'm a county supervisor.
What's your name?
Scott Haggerty.
Oh, okay.
And that didn't work for you?
But you know what? I just can't believe that you guys are running a dog and pony show here and pretending that you are getting public input when you're not. And you're letting people vote in the other room. You're letting people vote in the other room, and then they don't have enough information.
They're not voting.
Yes, they are. I've been to these meetings.
And what they are doing is they're giving their opinion.
No, this is not a two-way conversation.
Let's do
You guys
public-
don't answer any questions.
We're going to try, and we've got to get the questions first. Would you agree?
Meanwhile, the rest of the people are voting on things that they have no
Well,
information
then you
about.
have a choice to go in there and then do public comment.
It's all predetermined. You know that, and I know that. This is just a charade.
And instituted because of the high demand for this type of interactive forum. And so we modified our original design to accommodate this kind of public input. But there do need to be some ground rules, because we've had folks who've been very disappointed and very disillusioned in our meetings because they didn't feel like they had access to the conversation. So tonight, as before, but we really are serious about enforcing these. We are going to ask you to raise your hand to be recognized. We have 30 minutes. We're going to take a break, allow new people to come in. You're welcome to stay if you want to. Do another 30 minutes. Again, you're welcome to stay if you want to. But we're just going to allow new people to circulate through if they want to after visiting the other stations. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. Wait for me to call on you. I'll tell you in advance which order I'm going, so you'll know if you're next. As is done at the MTC and ABAG, we're going to have a 3-minute comment time limit, and there's going to be a little tone that you'll hear that will let you know that your time is up. We can come back to you if we have time, and again, you're welcome to stay as long as you want to.
There's something on the, and I don't really know how it's worded, but on MTC website it says there's going to be a 175% wealth redistribution. Can you explain that?
I can respond to both those questions. So the population question is a forecast. Every 4 years we do a forecast. With SB 375, the forecast becomes part of the Planned Bay Area. And what we've done is look at a couple of different things. One is the number of jobs that the region is expected to create between now and 2040, how that would relate to population growth, how much population would be needed to fill those jobs. We also look at essentially mortality. We look at births relative to deaths. The population estimate has been brought down somewhat from the beginning of this process, since the process began before the 2010 census, and the state estimates for population for the Bay Area were about 200,000 people too high. We've also expected that job growth, given the Great Recession in the future years, of the next 5 years or so, is still going to be fairly gradual. So population growth will be more limited. But that's how we come at it. It gets updated every 4 years. It also looks at income, and it circles back to the amount of housing that's provided. One of the charges of SB 375 is to provide in each region in California enough housing for its future economy. So that there are a number of things that are connected in this. It's largely not about people moving here.
So it wouldn't be about illegal aliens, right?
Actually, in immigration, legal or illegal, or in migration from other parts of the country, has been decreasing rapidly in recent years.
Right, there's more people leaving the state.
Okay, let's okay, thank you, sir.
And the wealth redistribution?
The wealth redistribution, there isn't wealth redistribution. What is proposed for a portion of Planned Bay Area, which is a regional housing need allocation, which is a much loved, I'm being a little sarcastic, state mandate that ABAG is responsible for, that requires for planning for all income categories in all cities and counties in California by income category. It looks at the level of very low and low income households now in a given community, and essentially requires for jurisdictions that have a relatively low percentage of very low income households to take on somewhat more.
You mean like
in terms of planning
and Alamo?
So you're forcing low-income people into high-income areas.
I mean, come on. There's
that's what it is,
no
essentially.
low income in Alamo or Atherton. You're going to force those cities to bring in some low income.
Yes, they are.
It's a draft.
Yes. I mean, it's
a draft plan, and there'll be opportunities to speak to our elected officials and tell them whether or not you think it's a good idea.
What's the impact of the schools? What's the cost going to be? You don't know what it is.
Next question.
Okay, first of all, I'm disappointed we had to go through all this just to get questions answered. I think I have a legitimate question, and this is my first meeting. I live in Pleasanton, and this is a joke. This whole meeting, this is so unorganized. But anyway, here's my question.
Is the other person asking the question?
Same time. She has my permission to put the signs up, okay?
Heather.
All right.
Heather.
I've heard repeatedly statements that local planning authorities will still maintain control. I saw it in video. I've heard you state it, and I need someone to explain to me how, once this plan is enacted, that financial coercive measures are not going to be put in place to force local planning authorities to comply with the plan because funding is going to be held from them. So it seems, if that's true, that seems disingenuous of you guys saying local planning will still maintain control. It'll be a puppet local planning.
Right.
So could someone please speak to that and definitively say there will be no coerciveness going on at the local planning level when it comes to implementing whatever plan comes out of this? That's my concern, because we need to control our local communities with our local planning, and we need Sacramento and DC and the world and the UN and all those people out of our business. We will plan our local communities. So address that directly. How are you not going to coercively force local planning through financial measures, through transportation money allocations and things like that?
That's their plan.
Explain that to me. Otherwise, if you can't explain that to me, this is all illegitimate. This is just a charade.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
What is being proposed is an incentive-based approach that rewards jurisdictions that are taking on incentive. That rewards jurisdictions that are taking on more growth.
So they withhold transportation funds for anybody who doesn't comply.
That's right.
The current
That's what it is, right? Let's just get it on record.
proposal for the One Bay Area grant is a do no harm approach. No jurisdiction sees their level of funding decline.
That's untrue.
Some that take on additional growth would see their funding increase.
So Pleasanton doesn't want mass transit, but they need to fix their roads, and they need road transportation funding to fix and improve roads. But it's not in the plan, so there's not going to be any funding for Pleasanton to improve their roads.
Correct.
Am I missing something here?
No, you're not.
How will that not happen under your plan? Because transportation for automobile improvements doesn't seem to be there.
There's the transportation money that was spent.
Explain that.
He just told you is what the Pleasanton City Council and planning people are telling us.
Yep.
They already did
That is what they're telling us.
Other communities.
So how did they get,
Where'd they get that
where
impression?
did they get that information?
come
How
up
did
with
they
that?
get there if they weren't coerced somehow?
Is that what you're
Answer the question.
Let's give them a chance to answer. Let's see if it's satisfactory. Let's hear it now.
There's overall over the next 25 years, there's going to be about $256 billion available to the region for transportation projects. A very small percentage of that federal funds is going to be given, as Ken said, as an incentive to local agencies that are willing to take on more of the growth. Now, with that said, though, the program is intended to have a floor, and that floor is no lower than what the local jurisdiction otherwise would have gotten under a different kind of formula program. So these are surface transportation funds and air quality funds, and it is an incentive to give local agencies that are willing to take on more of the growth, more of the money, because if they're going to take on more of the growth, then they're going to be having more infrastructure that they have to take care of.
Real quick clarification, you said a floor. The floor is going to be based on what it is today, and it won't ever grow? So they're going to be starved to death over the next 30 years?
The money grows over time, but it grows. The level is a similar level to what the local jurisdictions were previously getting under an older formula that we use. So we distribute this money according to a formula, different kind of formulas. We've established a new one that says they're going to get a little bit more money, little incentive money, if they're willing to take on additional growth. And as I say, I think that makes, in our minds, that makes sense, because if they're willing to take on more of the growth, there's more infrastructure for them to take care of.
Pleasanton's going to grow. Pleasanton's going to
That's right, and that's right.
It's going to grow the way the plan wants it.
Right.
Not the way that local
Yeah, we have a whole
correct.
line of...
So that's the answer.
Yeah, we got to hold you guys to 3 minutes because we have a whole line of people here that need to speak.
Well,
Go ahead.
that was basically my question.
Okay.
I think I will not get the answer I want, but I'm going to work very hard to keep my community from getting involved in this, because it's blackmail, number one.
Yes.
The way you're doing it is blackmail. And if we want our own control. We don't want regional control.
Yes.
So we don't want to be told where to live, if we can drive a car, all of your stack and pack stuff. So I'm just going to work very hard to make sure that what I see here is not implemented in my community.
Can you share with us what community you're...
Arenda.
Arenda.
Unfortunately. Well,
And they're planning on doing it in Orinda. You're going to ruin Orinda.
I know, but you can always vote people out.
They're going to ruin.
So, thank you. Our next.
Amy Worth wants all this. She's a communist.
Okay, I have two comments in two specific areas. I have read the plan, and I have a copy of it right here. These are your numbers, and if you look at your numbers on the transportation area for the next 25 years, there is absolutely no growth in the roads, and all of the growth is in public transit, specifically in the areas of light rail, local bus, heavy rail, and commuter rail. Those are very inefficient ways of transporting people. People are not riding these things. They do not bear the cost of the investment. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I have read in the plan is that you have housing allocations in all of these neighborhoods, and if I could translate bullcrap into English, basically what you are saying to these communities is they will put this housing in their neighborhoods, no matter what they say. And I have a copy of the documentation that shows how much each community is supposed to take. You're forcing it on them. It's the PDA, the priority development area. You're nodding your head. You're agreeing with me, aren't you? That's exactly right. So basically what you're doing is you're forcing communities in the Bay Area to urbanize themselves. And the other comment I want to make on affordable housing is you've got people like Greenbelt Alliance out there making all this land into open space, so they are causing the housing to be unaffordable in the Bay Area, and then you're turning around and taking taxpayer dollars and you're using those taxpayer dollars to subsidize housing. Affordable housing is subsidized housing. So you are taking taxpayer dollars and you are perverting the marketplace. The free market should determine what happens. Local communities should determine what happens. People are very upset because you are coming down from a regional level and from the state level and you're dictating to us. That is not how the United States works. The local community and the individual is in control, and we do not want this plan.
Just a couple of the. I think so.
Yeah, what's your answer?
You'll be getting.
Back to English here.
You won't be getting bullcrap.
We did.
First of all, on the PDAs as you describe them, it's priority development areas.
Yes.
Each city provided those up to ABAG and MTC.
They were required to get into that area. Yes,
they were not. No, they were not. They were not required to do anything. Well, okay, late. Can I, if you wanted an answer, the 3 minutes is being chewed up for this. The individual communities came forward with their own PDAs. That's, first of all, that's just the way it was. Whether you like that or not, that's the way it happened. Union City provided some. Other cities provided some. Some did not provide any at all. That's the way it is. All well.
To determine that. Right, were
they from Berkeley? Hold on.
No, they weren't all from Berkeley. Secondly, I don't like being interrupted. I'm giving an answer. The idea of having all income spreads. So it isn't just affordable housing, that is being allocated out there. It's income for all income levels.
So now
that's part of the state law. It isn't just affordable housing. So it's all income levels, and it is, some of that is in PDAs. There's no getting around it. So the communities that do not want PDAs they're not going to be having forced upon them to have one. Other communities want more than one. Some cities have many. And getting back to the incentive part about, I heard earlier about roads, local streets and roads in Pleasanton. Believe me, Scott and I sit on our own county transportation commission, and we're very well aware of the cities in our own county that have horrible roads. Some of them are some of the largest cities. We are aware that having local street and road repair and maintenance is of utmost importance. So to say that we're taking all money away from local streets and roads and pouring it all into buses, rail, and everything else is not correct either.
I didn't say that. I said there was no growth in your plan. You have it at the same level that you had it in 2012. It's the same level for roads, and everything else is an increase in public transit. And the other comment I want to make is you were misstating the facts here. The reality is that if a community like Saratoga or Orinda does not want these PDAs and does not want to build this housing, they will not get local money for their local road repair coming from the state. That is part of the law, sir. We have read the law, and that is in the law. So what you're saying about incentives is a really perverted way of trying to describe what you're doing,
No,
which
it's
is
perverted.
you are...
It is not perverted, because if communities want more PDAs, that's what they want.
There's a line of people behind you, so let's move on to the next question rather than...
So wait a minute.
Okay.
Next.
What you're saying to us then is that in Pleasanton, when they tell us that they are being
So you're
held,
interrupting her time at this point?
but that's part of your answer.
Okay, I would just like to say you all seem like very nice men. And I would just like to know what kind of Kool-Aid you were drinking. I'm serious. I mean, you seem like very intelligent, nice people. And I cannot understand why you think this is okay. I really don't get it. We are very well informed, in case you didn't notice. We have been reading about all of this stuff, starting from the UN and rolling its brown self down on all of us for years. In the UN, they started with, the American way of life is a threat to all the rest of the world, and we would like to see it leveled. Well, you're helping do that by this whole plan, and we do not buy it. We don't understand it. We don't know why it's moving forward without our consent. If we wanted to live in China, we would go there, but that's what you're trying to make us do. And I would like to know, my question is, do you know if you drive down the road here a little ways, there's some kind of weird development out in the middle of a field that has like 1,000 places that are stacked up, kind of close to the BART, but like over by Lowe's, you know what I'm talking about? And I drive by that thing, and I've been driving by it for a while and going, who in the world is going to live there? Is that where you want us all to live, in places like that have shops in the bottom and houses on the top, throw away our cars and ride the BART? Is that your vision for our life? Yes. Because that's not my tax dollars at work. That is my question.
Okay, so is that my vision for your life? No, but it might be the vision for someone else's life, and that's what we have to admit. Please, guys. There may be other people where, and again, I haven't spent most of my life in a high-rise apartment either, because that's just the way it is. However, some people actually prefer that type of lifestyle, whether you like it or not. That's right, that is good for them. So, we are going to be having income level stratas all across the board and housing provided for everybody. So, no, and it isn't, believe me, as I said earlier, am I looking to have all cars eliminated from the Alameda County? No.
Can I just tell you that in the city of Lafayette, there have already been meetings about this. A friend of mine who lives in a single-family dwelling, who is an older person, has been asked to consider moving out of her house because, she's older, and why does she need that big house? Why doesn't she move down by the BART so she can get her car sold and she wouldn't have to worry about anything? Well, I don't think so. This is Lafayette. This is happening. Is this going to happen? Is this the way you're going to get people to move out of their house?
No, this is not going to be a coerced movement of elderly into senior housing.
Started without your knowledge, then. Not yet. That's what every central.
Anyway, I'm
Thank you.
trying to know. We just wonder. We wonder.
Okay. I don't drink Kool-Aid, by the way.
I don't need the microphone. If I could just say something just real quick. I think one of the misconceptions here is that this plan is the plan, this is the plan that is going to be voted on, this is the one that's going to happen. And hold on, I'll answer that question too. But you need to understand, your public input, and this is what I've tried to stress throughout this meeting, your public input is vitally important. Vitally. I started off saying that. If you don't agree with it, it's not about drinking Kool-Aid. We're elected officials. We represent you. And
You're not representing us.
Well, you know what? I represent the cities of. Okay.
You're not representing
Okay. Whether or not you believe that, but ultimately, what we're going to do and what we're trying to do, and the reason I wanted to be here tonight to listen to the public, was when I do have to go vote, understand the concerns of the public. That's the purpose of the meeting. Don't lose sight of that. The purpose of what we're doing here right now is to hear how the people feel, and then we work from there.
Well, it's about time.
Okay, then you're
It's about
welcome.
time.
Okay. Well, you got the right to elected officials.
Geez, what do we have to do to get somebody to listen?
Nobody took our input. We had a bunch of people.
Here we
at
are,
the
ma'am.
spring meetings.
Finally.
You
We had to
didn't
force you to take questions.
Because none
we had to force
Wait a minute.
We have a process here, ma'am.
None of our input showed up in the spring meetings, and there was a letter from Steve Heminger the day before they were supposed to make a decision on the spring meetings, and he had already decided and sent out a letter on June 16th for a meeting that was supposed to be decided on June 17th for what was supposed to happen. So you are not taking public input. You are listening, you are sitting here making the impression of public input, but you are not taking public input, and you are not acting on public input.
We're taking some time away from our friend Jay here, who has been waiting patiently.
My question is very simple. I've talked to Democrats about this plan. I've talked to Republicans. I've talked to African American groups, small business people. I've talked to a lot of people about this. As they learn about the content of the plan, I find they're overwhelmingly against it. My question is very simple. If you, in fact, I'm correct, and the overwhelming majority of people are against the plan, would you guys support the people against the plan?
Yes, good question.
Can I answer that question? Sure, I don't know what the plan is that I'm voting for yet right now because I'm trying to take public input. Public input will also help frame the plan.
I'm talking about regional. I'm talking about a regional plan, which is telling communities that have to build high-density housing. The communities don't want it. It's a total abrogation of decades of local planning in which they wanted to limit that type of construction in the communities to preserve the quality of the community. And these housing units going in throughout the Bay Area, and they're going in, are being pushed upon them, whether you want to call it positive incentives or negative incentives, whatever you want to call it, being pushed upon them through monetary incentives, using people's own tax money against what they would like to have done with their own communities. So it's very simple. The plan I'm talking about is this plan mandating regional planning as whether you call it a positive or negative incentive, and forcing this high-density housing. If the great majority of people are against this high-density housing being incentivized, or whatever you want to call it, regionally, if the great majority of people are against it, and I believe they are, would you support the people against the plan?
Yeah, good question.
As Supervisor Haggerty has said, we're at the midpoint in the planning process. Nothing has been adopted. So there is no plan in place.
Answer his question.
I'm trying
That's what I was talking about specifically. It's all in your website. And I'm saying, well, who do you support, the plan or the people?
Exactly.
Public input is critical to this process.
Who would you support?
He doesn't vote, sir. Sir, he doesn't vote.
If I demonstrate through a poll, people are
I didn't what?
Will you support the people against the plan?
I think it's worth pointing out that if you look at the scenarios that have been developed to date, they're largely based upon local jurisdictional plans that exist now. As was already stated, the priority development areas, those were nominated by local governments. Those weren't something cooked up by ABAG or MTC. They required a resolution in every single community on the part of a city council.
Can I answer the question? Let me answer the question. Okay. As an elected official, you need to understand, he doesn't vote on it. He doesn't vote on it. He doesn't vote on it. I vote on it. Mayor Green votes on it. Okay? Now, hold on. I'm going to get there because the question in the back was who votes on it? Members of ABAG, members of MTC. Where do they come from? Jennifer Hosterman is on the Air District. It is. And I'm going to get... No, she asked a question, ma'am. You're not the only person here. Okay. Okay, then let me just cut to the chase since you won't let me answer her question. If the majority of the people in my district, I represent Livermore, Fremont, and Dublin. If they don't support it, I don't support it.
Okay, great.
Okay? Good?
Thank you. Wow.
I just want to note that I think the time has switched. So if you're interested in any of the other stations, you're welcome to join those at this point. And I just welcome.
I don't know if I have a specific question, but I do want to share with you what I would like this plan to do. I have a new nephew. He was born exactly 3 days ago. I want him to be able to breathe air in this region. I have asthma, and so do my nieces and nephews. I want this plan to take care of that.
because there's going to be more people, and if we don't find a solution, we're all going to get sicker, our kids are going to be sicker. I already see that.
Yeah,
so
your research
I would want, I want to meet those greenhouse gas reductions. That's what I want. The other thing I want is when I get older, I want to live in a place that is clean but is also accessible to transit if I can't drive. I'm not saying other people have to do that. I want that. And I want to live in a community where my grocery store and my library and what I need is close by. That's what I want.
That already exists.
Excuse me. If you're for the people, I'm one of the people and I'm commenting.
Nobody's stopping you.
You're interrupting.
I didn't.
The other thing that I want is I want this to be very clear, and I agree with people about this, about where your numbers are coming from. Where are you going to really get the greenhouse gas reductions? What are you really going to invest in transit? How is this really going to work? Because there are projects that are being passed, like the high occupancy lanes, where maybe there hasn't been a lot of discussion about it, it's just passed. I don't know how that's going to relate to this plan. And I want to see how that's going to happen. So that is what I would like. And I would also like the chance for everyone else in this room to be able to give their comment without being shouted over. We are civilized people. We can have a debate and a discussion.
I agree. Research CO2.
There you go. I even used less time.
Find out you don't have a problem.
All right.
You do have a problem.
No, we don't.
In your own brain.
All right, I have a couple of comments first. I've been living in the Bay Area for most of my life, and I'm worried as I'm getting older that there won't be a place for me in the Bay Area. The neighborhoods that I'm looking to live in are, of course, increasing in cost because we live in the Bay Area. There aren't a whole lot of options for my perfect neighborhood where I have the ability to take transit if I feel like it, or drive if I feel like it, walk to the grocery store, do all of my errands, have my friends easily able to visit me whether they choose to drive, they choose to walk, or they choose to take public transit. And that's one of my big concerns as a resident. The other thing that I'm worried about is I know the overall plan is kind of giving every community a theme. You know, if you're having a priority development growth area, and I want every community that has one to have the flexibility to choose what that place looks like. Maybe the one for Dublin looks really different than the one for Oakland. And sometimes I feel like in a lot of the planning sessions we kind of shoehorn a type of plan that doesn't work for the individual communities. And I know a lot of people in the room are concerned about that as well. But my biggest concern is that a lot of people won't have the opportunity to speak on what they think their community fits because a lot of planning meetings are attended by the same sort of people, and there's not enough outreach for general Bay Area to have their chance to provide their input, especially younger people and the people that are going to be growing up here in the next 25 years and starting their families. They may not have a lot of space to have the lifestyle that they hope for.
Good job.
What I wanted to follow up with is, I really, as hard as I'm listening, I'm having a hard time understanding who's responsible for what. My city council in Pleasanton tells me you're responsible for all of the evil. Livermore says you guys are responsible for all of the evil. You tell us it's not the case. I think what we honestly need is a flow chart that tells us exactly who's responsible for what. So when we go to talk to somebody, we can cut the crap, because this is crap now.
Yep. Thank you. Yay.
So who of you are going to put this together for us, and when can we see it?
A flow chart on what?
So we know who to go to.
For what? On transportation, land use, what? I'm just trying to figure it out. MTC is responsible for the transportation aspect of it. ABAG is doing the housing aspect of it and the forecasting.
And maybe there needs to be a flow chart there from the transportation court so that we know who's responsible for what. If it's whatever you're involved in, but we're we're working in a swamp. We don't even know who to go to because the other guy points to the other guy.
You know, unfortunately, your state legislator started this, and they're not here. They're not taking it.
We need to stop.
We have SB 375 that we're trying to implement, and you know, it came down on us, and we're doing the best we can. But I can assure you that even in my district, I have meetings with every mayor and every city council member that chose to show up, and you and I just had a side conversation about that chose to show up and take part in the discussions. And they've been great discussions. I'm going to be very clear with you.
Are they asking for public input?
They're not asking.
The mayors and the individuals that you're speaking.
I don't run the cities, ma'am.
Well,
I really
Do you
don't.
recommend that they go back to their cities?
Do you recommend that the mayors, the council members, go back to their city and get their input?
The reason we held these forums, and one of the things I will tell you is, it became painfully obvious to me about a year and a half ago that there was this vacuum, that it wasn't getting down into the cities, the mayors and the councils. So I had the first forum, and I brought in all the mayors and all the city councils from the districts. We would start bringing in school districts, water districts, and all this, so they understood what's coming. And it wasn't from really only just the standpoint of, you know, here it comes. It was like, you better be aware. But you know what? You can bring a horse to water.
But all those entities get state and federal
So,
money.
did you get your question?
Well, if each and every one of you understood my question,
Send it back up.
hold on, Scott. If every single one of you understood my question, because if I was standing in front of Andy Grove and he had asked the same question and I wasn't able to answer this question, he would wonder whether or not I should hold that position any longer.
Are you referring to me?
No.
Because I answered your question.
Yes, you did. But I asked a specific question. Who's going to be responsible and when can you have it done so that we know the order in which who's responsible for what? I asked the question. I don't hear. Scott spoke up. Thank you very much.
We're going to have a vote in the 2013 is final vote, right?
I'm not asking about a vote.
No. You wanted the flow chart, so that's part of the flow chart. You want who's responsible for what? ABAG and MTC commissioners will be voting in 2013 for the overall sustainable community strategy. Now, no, you wanted a flow chart. You may not like it, but
Doug and I, if I may, Doug and I will commit to producing a flow chart along the lines of what you're describing, that describes what the agencies do and how it relates to local government.
And then the public can give
And who's
input along the
responsible
way
for
before
what?
the
So
Yes.
I want to be able to go in. I want to be able to go by February, and I want to be able to go to Pleasanton or Livermore and say, "This is your responsibility," and you're derelict on it, and you're not even communicating to your citizens.
Right.
I want to be able to do that in February. Can I do that in February? I'm going to keep answering the same question. I'm telling you guys, I'm going to tell you guys, I was brought up in my workplace in Silicon Valley. And I'm not really trying to be disrespectful, but I want you to know where I'm coming from. If Andy Grove had asked this question of us, we would have known before we got to the meeting we better have an answer. And quite clearly, I am not getting the kind of answer. I'm not hearing a commitment. I'm hearing in 2013 there's going to be some. I need to deal with what's available today. When it changes, I want the thing updated so I can deal with the right people again.
When are you going to have that on?
When will you gentlemen make a commitment?
We can have it up in a week or two.
Yeah.
No. Week?
Week.
1 week.
And let's,
1 week.
And how will we get this information?
It'll be up on the
It'll be on our website.
Plan Bay Area
Plan Bay
website.
website.
Yeah.
And an opportunity to say, please sign up for the RSS feed, because that lets you know when that website is
Now
updated.
may I ask you to do one more thing? So we don't have any more excuses when we go to the city. Can you please, when I go to the city of Pleasanton and I show them that chart of responsibility, I want to say, when they give me a bullcrap answer, I want to say, then pull out your responsibility chart. There's no reason for all of this. What's happening? He's responsible. Gentlemen, you got it?
I think we do. I even shaved a
But
week
I'm
off.
telling you right now, I was brought up in an industry, believe it or not, my ass was on the street February 1 if I didn't have it.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, thanks.
You're talking about communicating down through, I'm sorry to interrupt, Heather. The local elected officials, that it's coming down through them and that we should be going and communicating to them. You're hearing from us, and you're telling us, Scott, that it's the legislature, and we should have gotten involved back in 2006 when Arnie screwed everything up, right? So why aren't you guys communicating back up to them that this is a problem? And helping us, your citizens, organize to fight it when you're hearing that we're really not happy about this.
And here we are, local government, taking public input, trying to disseminate it. I mean, I think the best thing is you have local government. And a lot of what some of you people are saying, we don't disagree with. And you know, we pushed back. Some of us pushed back in the beginning. But unfortunately, the legislature passed it. The legislature continues, the legislature continues to take money from the counties to continue to feed their problems. You know, it goes on and on and on. But you know what? We deal with what we've got.
Just say no, because you're our best hope.
Heather. And I'm trying. That's why I'm trying to get the questions, ma'am, so I don't need to be yelled at. Okay. Really.
SB 375 was passed without a vote of the public. I realize that. I realize that. And this is a result of people finally figuring out what's actually happening and reading through these bills. I've read all these bills. I literally am living and breathing this 10 hours a day, and I'm not going away. Okay, for the past year, I have been doing my homework, showing up at these meetings. I've been doing your jobs for you, informing the public about what this plan is going to do to everybody's lives. And guess what? They're not happy. And this is not a left or right issue. This is going to transform the lives of what you guys are saying, 9 million people. And you think that a public input meeting in one county, one in each county, is going to be enough for that? I don't think a baseball stadium is enough for that. I think we should have had it on television. I think there should have been debates. I think this should have been so exhaustive that people were sick of hearing what this plan was all about, and then we should have voted on it. The people. The people. Not some transportation authority.
I don't disagree
That's not elected by the people. I realize that we have elected officials on these boards, but this is not an elected agency by the people and not represented by the people. And I beg to differ when you say that local jurisdictions, we should go there. They don't know what's going on. I'm having coffee with these people, mayors, city councils, all over the Bay Area, and guess what? They don't know what this plan is going to do. They don't know.
My district does.
Not well, maybe yours is the only one, but I doubt it. And I'm telling you, well, I beg to differ because I'm actually sitting down with these people. I have a board of supervisors. I'm in an unincorporated area, and I don't have representation. But I'm taking my time to go help and inform city council people who are telling me they don't know what's going on. The planners and the staffers might know, but the people, well, that's great. And that small body of MTC and ABAG is going to make the decision and vote for all of us.
Ma'am, you're missing my point.
Wait, excuse me. It's my turn to talk. I didn't ask you. I mean, you know, this is why people are so angry. You want to know why people are angry? Because this is the first opportunity where we've had anybody who knows anything about a plan that now you're telling me there is no plan. You should all be fired. This has been going on for a couple of years and you're telling us there's no plan? I mean, I don't know, is it a plan or isn't it a plan? Where are the 5 scenarios? How much is it going to cost? Where are the jobs? What's the impact in the local cities going to be on schools, on fire, safety? There's none of that information in any of these meetings. And you're asking people in the public to vote on this stuff. They have no idea what they're voting on. This is nothing but a 3-ring circus, and this is ring number A.
No figures.
This is ring A, ring B, and ring C are voting on God knows what.
With tokens.
It's offensive to people. That is why we are ticked off. And I honestly, I appreciate the fact that you guys have actually, you know, stood here in the firing line. I do. I really do. You know, but you know, because I I've read these bills. There is nothing about social equity, not one mention of that in these bills. Yet, last year in the meetings, that's all I heard about, how social equity was something that we had to all achieve, and everybody agreed on it, and nobody wanted to say what social equity was. Nobody could define it, and they still won't talk about it.
And it's in your video. It says social equity.
Exactly. Now, I would like to continue talking. Would anybody yield their time to me?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. No, you know what? Listen, I've waited a year to talk to you guys about this, and I'm not gonna be told I'm not gonna give input. This bill calls for the entire reformation of the entire 9 Bay Area counties. It calls for high-density stack and pack housing next to mass transit. You are a transit authority. Guess what you want to spend money on? If you are a railroad, you'd want to spend money on railroads. I get that, okay? But it's not affordable. It's not. It's subsidized. Less than 3% of the current population in California uses it. 97% of us are going to subsidize it. It's hopelessly over-subsidized, and we don't want our taxpayer money going to housing and have a transit authority tell us where and how to live. I realize that this is a bill and a law, and you have to make a plan. And I know, and I've heard, that that plan is not going to be forced. It's just a plan. Don't worry. Don't get excited. But when that plan gets adopted in 2013, it's a blueprint that all the local jurisdictions will have to use. And it will be overlaid on top of their general plans. And it will then become a nonconformance issue. They can be sued for noncompliance. It's in the bill. They won't get transportation funds. There are all kinds of reasons why these people will have to beg for money. And with the low-income Section 8 stack and pack housing, you're going to ruin neighborhoods. You're going to ruin Orinda. You're going to ruin Moraga. You're going to ruin these beautiful, unique communities because of some regional planning scheme that calls for social justice or the redistribution of wealth. And I'm sorry, but our local planners and our local citizens want to have a say in how their communities are built and how they're going to live. And they're outraged because that choice is being taken away from them. It is. This plan, somebody else yield your time. Thank you. This is not a Brown Act meeting, so if you want to take me out with the cops, then that's fine. But otherwise,
we're not going to give that.
This is an input meeting. You said you wanted robust input.
I'm being totally respected. I'm not being disrespected in any way.
Yeah, he's yielding his time.
I'll yield my time.
Someone will yield their time.
Does that mean you're not going to talk?
You also aren't telling people. You are also not telling people that these developers are going to get CEQA waivers. So when you tell us in these nice little videos how we're saving the environment and it's all going to reduce GHGs, that's a load of crock. That's not true. All of these in SB 375, if the developers buy into it, and why wouldn't they? Because they're going to get development money for this. They don't have to do any GHG calculations for light cars and trucks, and you all know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It's just that the public doesn't know this. And I'm not going to stop talking about it. I'm going on Channel 5. I'm creating cable access news channels. I'm lecturing all over the state about this because this is wrong. You are social engineering the lives, and you're deciding where and how we should live, and that's wrong. I think I'm done.
My question involves something that's already been done. I'm curious, why was a second BART station built in Dublin instead of extending it to Livermore or Tracy?
Money for what reason?
Money. If money was the issue, why wasn't any construction held off until there was money available to build one in Livermore?
Well, let me just say, I'll let Scott fill it in a little later, but
should be on.
We are aware that BART ideally should get into Livermore. We do have it. We have an expenditure plan we're developing right now in our county, and BART to Livermore will be, I'm sure of that, will be part of that program of getting BART into Livermore.
On the freeway.
At some point, but in a station in Dublin, what sense does that make?
Well, it's an infill station, just like Fremont right now is going to be having an infill station probably in Irvington. They're going to be expanding.
Stations within a half mile of each other.
Well, if you look at downtown Oakland, downtown San Francisco, you have those.
Downtown Oakland.
But from what I've been in both of those stations, sir, and I think they're both being utilized fairly well.
It was a very inefficient use of funds.
Well, that's your opinion. I'll accept that.
Well, I mean, who made the decision to build this station? Was there any public input on that?
I'm sure there was at part four.
I'm sure there was. Was there? Does anyone?
I'll say yes, there was public input on the
I mean, we're not
West Dublin station.
Sir, we're not BART directors,
Well,
so
yeah, I
it's
understand
a little hard for us to answer that. I have an answer in the back of my head that I want to give you, but I'm trying to verify it first. So if you'll give me a few minutes, I'll verify it.
I mean, it's already done, so you can't change it now.
I can tell you, there's no elected official working harder to get BART delivered.
Yeah, I just questioned
me and John McFarland.
the logic behind it, which
Yes.
is none, as far as I'm concerned. That was all I had to say. Thank you.
Just to make an announcement. We have time for one more comment in this period. We're going to take a break again and let
You yielded your time.
let people come in.
I'm just giving you a bad time. I don't care. I'll be here all night with you.
And I have some saving a place for the lady over here.
Good. I'm keeping my eye.
How much time do I get?
You have 3 minutes, and then we're going to take a brief break, let the new folks come in. Go ahead.
All right, let me start my watch here.
All right, we have the first lady.
All right, I'm not a member of any group. I haven't been to one of these meetings before, and like the lady who spoke earlier, I object to MTC not being an elected body. It's unelected and unaccountable, just like our legislature.
Yeah.
It's unelected because of rigged districts. Go back about 40 years when they didn't have rigged districts, we had a much nicer state. Into that little topic. I object over here in session A. All of the options were transit, transit, and more transit. What kind of transit do you want? What kind of bus subsidy do you want? I don't want bus subsidies. Right here we have from up Niles Canyon, we have 84 going into Livermore. When I moved to Livermore from Stockton almost 40 years ago, that was designated as a freeway clear up into Contra Costa County. Jerry Brown, in his previous life, killed the freeway, and a lot of drivers also. Bus subsidies kill people because freeways don't get built. We have thousands of miles of state highway in this state that need to get converted to freeway and have needed so for 40 years. A freeway is 100 times less dangerous than a 2-lane highway. 100 times. And what we have in Livermore is empty buses driving around all day long. I object to that. All the buses in Livermore have one person in them, the driver, maybe a second person. I actually saw a bus in Livermore a few weeks ago that had 3 people on it, including the driver. That's a new record. We could replace all these buses with a few taxi cabs and save a lot of money.
Yes.
And then...
Have more car lanes, get the bike lanes out.
Yeah, well, I don't care about bike lanes. They don't hurt me. But yeah, more car lanes. When did I vote for diamond lanes? When did I get a chance to vote for diamond lanes? How about equal? We're talking about social equality. How about equality of who gets to drive in diamond lanes? I saw in the paper today, school buses can't even operate in a diamond lane. Catholic high school had their school bus ticketed for being in a diamond lane. That's dumb. That is really dumb.
It's because they were Catholic.
All right. Equal opportunity. See, I'm about out of time here. Okay, got to do this quickly. If we get rid of the transit subsidies, then the transit operators will be accountable to the riders.
Yes.
They will either be accountable or they will perish.
Yep.
Like the airlines. Satisfy your customers or go out of business. Get rid of the bus subsidies, get rid of the transit subsidies, get rid of the BART subsidies, and transit would have a chance to work. Transit would have a chance to work like it did in the 1950s when Key Route was private operated and made a profit on 10 cents a ride. And I rode it a bunch in those days because I was too young to drive. Let's see, I got about, well, somebody had me, when will BART make a profit? Yeah, right, okay, we already got that one answered. It won't because of the subsidy. All right, I'm done.
So just real quick, I want to answer the last question. I wanted to make sure that I was correct in what I believe, because I'm not a BART director, and this happened a long time ago, but I have the answer. First of all, I do want to say BART, they operate in the mid-60s. which is pretty good actually for a
Key
transit.
Route made a profit.
Okay, that's fine. So let me ask. I just want to throw that out there, just real quick, and I'm starting to get a little shaky here because this is a lot of confrontation for me. And I mean that sincerely. I've been an elected official for 15 years, and I've never gone through this, and it's been difficult. Okay, and I appreciate that. I do. I will never squelch that. So let me answer the question. What happened was, and the reason this BART station was built was, BART, as I understand it, bypassed this station. It was originally supposed to be built, and they went further down the road to do the Dublin Pleasanton station. What happened, what came out of that was the city of Dublin in turn sued. And because of that lawsuit, this station here had to be built. Okay, so there's your answer to your question.
You actually had 10 seconds left. I was going to say the last time I rode BART like a good little boy to not drive, I was trying to go to a big game at Cal from Livermore. I got there on BART in time for the second half. That's how good BART is.
Well, you were rooting for Cal. That's okay. I'm not going to pause too long. I just want to acknowledge if there are new folks coming in that haven't been to this station, we are proceeding, asking each person to come up to the mic and giving everybody 3 minutes to make a comment or ask a question of our distinguished panel here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 3 minutes. That's 24 minutes. That takes us right about to 8 o'clock, which is our adjournment time. So thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't represent anybody, but I got on the website after seeing the videos of the sessions last year, and extremely annoyed, just like a lot of the people here. I understood some things from those first sessions, and then I went to the website. I went to the website today, as a matter of fact, and saw response. Clearly, all cities are not on board with these processes. The PDA, the 70% PDA that we were talking about a little bit earlier, which was kind of minimized as a very small percentage, was spelled out by City of Millbrae officials having great concerns about a mandate to spend 70% of their funds in a priority area. Burlingame, same response, on letters on your website. Major concerns and opposition, that's a quote. City of Mountain View, 70% requirement too restrictive and detrimental. Brisbane, Sunnyvale, specifically disagreeing and saying that it's extremely limiting to have this kind of a restriction. They're not buying in to the plans that you're presenting, okay? These people that are here are angry because they don't buy any of this, obviously. The plans, you represent a range of transit options. People don't agree with any of that. How do we get the plans completely reworked? We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. This is a reason, I believe, why folks are extremely annoyed and showing up here, even more annoyed than the last sessions. I have some of the comments, again, from your website, from the previous sessions, don't seem to be reflected in anything I've seen. Looking at the stations, looking at the options that are in my little voting agenda that I can choose something here today. What do we say? I printed it out too small. But anyways, it's one comment after another that I highlighted that people are asking for more local control, freedom for individuals, businesses should have input here, and we're not seeing any of this. The people here are looking at what's being offered, and nobody likes what's being served up. This is the issue, and I don't see any possible mechanism where you've put on your agenda that there's going to be a vote in a few months here on one of these plans, and people have no way to change it.
I think there's a couple of things there. First of all, the 70% minimum, as you mentioned, I think there's going to be, my prediction at least, is there's probably going to be lower with individual counties again having an option to go maybe from 50 to 70 on their own volition. So some of the cities you mentioned, many of those in Santa Clara and San Mateo County, they may indeed take a lower threshold than 70%. So there is going to be, that's my prediction at least. I can't speak for all the other commissioners, but I think my outlook would be there probably is going to be some latitude in there on a county-by-county basis to do that. Again, that would be my prediction. So I think that there is going to be some flexibility in that.
I want to keep us moving because I want to make sure we get to as many of these folks by 8 o'clock as we can.
Might I ask that you all use the microphone, because now that we have this line of people, those of us sitting on this side can't hear.
Very good. Yes, we will do that.
Yeah, I just want to say, sir, you said, we have no idea how we're going to, these plans are going to be changed. I'm paraphrasing. You're the step. You're the step. Your comments matter. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. This isn't something that's done. This is something that's in progress. This isn't the first time it's been out to the community. It's the second time. It won't be the last. So the public input is important.
It says there's a vote in May. One of these plans is going to be chosen by the board. I don't see where there's another step happening.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Singleton, and I have about 3 comments. The first comment is about the process. I went to one of these meetings last spring, and as we had noted that the process was run by the Greenbelt Alliance, which had an agenda that was pro-bicycle. And I'm very glad that you changed and presumably have an unbiased third party running the process. Well, I went to one just to check it out, and it was abominable. They raced us through, they didn't define anything for us, and there were terms of art, of transportation lingo that no one understood, and then we were forced to immediately vote. Well, most people didn't vote. And then we asked, and we were refused an answer of how many people who were city employees and planning commission members were there, because their vote shouldn't count. It's supposed to be the random citizen public, not people who already have a stake in the matter or whose bosses told them to vote a certain way. So that's my comment about the process. Number 2. I live in an urban area. I grew up in an urban area. I grew up in a ghetto. And I find it so wrong that comparing how Oakland might deal with their issues and how Livermore will deal with their issues, totally different population, totally different geography. Number 3. Even one of the people, and I can't indict who, kind of mocked people's concerns about eminent domain. I grew up in a ghetto under the threat of eminent domain. We grew up 2 blocks from the Ebony Inn Hooker Motel, but it was our house. And for 7 years, we were diddled around with whether they were going to put Highway 94 through our backyard. Well, ultimately they didn't, but they put it in the alley behind our house. Consequently, we could never sell our house. We weren't compensated because they didn't actually take our house. We had no say in the matter. It's not a rich person's problem. It's everyone's problem. And I don't think we should be mocked when we're bereaved. Thank you.
Real quickly, I was asked to make another announcement. If you are interested in the other stations, this is your opportunity to move in. They're starting their conversations now. So A or B. So let's proceed.
The other stations are rigged.
Exactly.
Question.
Apparently you're only allowed 3 questions in the other stations.
Good evening. I'm here
And no definition.
I'm here to speak for myself, only myself, but I represent every person that considers themselves free. What we're observing here is what's called social engineering.
Yes.
Through community manipulation. There's some people in the audience that feel very good about what they heard, because these people are paid very, very handsomely. Some of them in excess of $200,000 a year, Mr. Kimsey.
Don't include kickbacks.
And they are very, very good at manipulating people's opinions. Yet they're taking away our freedoms. Eminent domain was not designed to take your property and use it for profit, which you are choosing to do. Oh, you're not going to put that profit in your pocket. But what about these developers? Are they going to do it for free? They're going to make profit, correct? Why don't you let the free market decide what kind of housing we need or want?
Exactly. Where?
How about let the free market decide what kind of transportation they want to have to get from point A to point B. I expect our elected officials to look out for our best interests when the developers come into our community and say, I need to take Mr. Smith's property or Mrs. Jones' property. And you say no. That's what I expect from our elected officials. And if you can't do that, then I expect our electorate, our voters, to vote you out. And as far as getting incomes that are far in excess of what is appropriate, you people should be ashamed of yourselves. Absolutely ashamed of yourselves. I have the list of the employees from MTC. There's 135 out of 215 people making in excess of $100,000. And I'll qualify that. That's total cost of employment. And that includes interns and boards of directors, which are some of our elected officials. Elected officials get very little.
Thank you.
From this. So, I look at you people and act like Americans. Act like free Americans. Our job is to take care of the people who cannot take care of themselves. Everybody should contribute. I don't care what level they contribute in, they should contribute. And you're trying to give them something which keeps them down. When a person contributes, they feel good about themselves.
Thank you, Scott, so much.
You're welcome. This is my third meeting in a row, and it would be nice if you'd write the questions down, put them on a PowerPoint, so people can go, that question was asked last night. And then you can put up there pending, or possibly will be answered in a week or 2 weeks, or give us an update on the questions.
Very good.
Because you have many more of these to go, and I don't want to see the same format or an altered format because voting is illegal, the way you were doing it last night. All right? Thank you.
And tonight.
Well, yeah, the tokens is illegal. Thank you
So
very
we
much.
have 15 more minutes of time, so go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to say that my planned comments have been largely said by my predecessor here. I stand here as an American tonight, not as anybody representing a group. I may be holding a sign that expresses my political position on this issue. But I want to remind you folks, this country was built and made the great nation that it is by free markets being satisfied by products that individuals created and delivered to satisfy that market. And your arbitrary interference in the market, if we need trains, buses, planes, it doesn't make any difference what form of transportation. Automobiles, the market will dictate them. And if there's a market, it'll be built. If we need stack and pack housing because there's a sufficient market for it that's willing to pay for it, it'll get built without your intervention.
Yes. Yes.
That's how this country was made great. And these policies that you're putting into place are what's destroying this nation.
Yes. Right.
We've gone from my childhood to today, and I'll tell you what, it did not get better. And maybe previous generations have said that. My concern is not for myself. My concern is for the generation that follows me. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi. I've been to 3 meetings in a row, too. Thank you very much, Scott. This is the first time, hello, that we've actually had someone sit down in this way and try to answer our questions and listen. I hope, unlike the questions that are being asked here, which are completely ambiguous and worded so as to not garner any information that we can see when you go and present the results actually reflect what we voted on. It's ambiguous, so you can make it mean whatever you want it to mean, and that's nonsense. I know that all of you are old enough to remember the 60s and the 70s, and I'm from Boston, and busing didn't work, guys. Social engineering does not work. Your plan to take, well, we were in here a little while ago, someone was talking about taking the people from the low-income areas and putting some of them in Atherton and some in San Carlos and some in Belmont. And you think some of the people in Atherton and the hills of Belmont are going to move to the low-income areas so we can mix it all up? Why are you doing that? You don't make any of those towns better by moving the low-income areas into those towns. Give the people that live in those areas an opportunity to get out of them because that's what they want. Don't just move them to another town, but into another low-income slum.
Give them a
those areas.
I just have a quick question. Sorry. What incentives do you plan to use to get people to use public transportation, and are these incentives actually going to discourage people to use cars, such as congestion pricing, increasing gas taxes, toll roads, higher parking fees, those types of things? What is your plan?
The plan is to have a transit system that is competitive time-wise as local automobiles. So that's sort of the short answer.
Just let him answer the question, please.
So building the appropriate technology, the appropriate transit technology to improve access to various locations within the market area of that.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Within the market area of the transit system. To some degree, these transit services will be supported by public funds. They're supported by tolls. Bridge tolls, for example, fund some of the AC transit service that operates between Oakland and San Francisco. So there's a whole myriad of funding sources that go into operating our transit systems.
And an additional state tax.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, she has the floor right now.
Yeah, but what I've read anyway about your plan is that you plan on having what you call, I'm a little short, it's hard for me, that incentives are actually decentives from using your car, because you're going to, I saw in one of the, on your website talking about congestion, what is it, congestion pricing, right. Okay, well, that's just discouraging people from using their cars. And if you want to choose to use your car and live in a single family resident, that should be your choice. And how, if you're going to get low-income people into these housing slums, like you've called them, how are they going to have upward mobility if it's going to be more expensive at middle class? You're going to make it harder for the middle class to use their cars. Their cost of living is going to go up. And so how are people in low income going to move up, have upward mobility, if this is what you're putting forward? That's my comment.
I was up here earlier and I was assured that the plan that you're proposing would not be forced on local cities, that they would have a choice. So I would like to tell you the real life story of Livermore, California. And it has two components to it. The first component has to do with BART. BART was originally scheduled to go to Livermore and stay on 580. And then somebody in the Planning Commission decided it would be a wonderful idea to bring BART into downtown Livermore. In order to accomplish that task, it would have required at least 3 times the cost of keeping it on the freeway, and it would have required tunneling under Livermore. It would have destroyed 81 homes in the city, and it would have put high-density housing right in downtown Livermore. Livermore is not an urban center. And when the citizens of Livermore complained about this, they were basically told to shut up. That the issue was that this is what we wanted, this is in the plan. So when you tell me that this is not being forced on cities, I'm here to tell you that it is, and Livermore is a classic example. And when the citizens protested, the City Council of Livermore decided to spend $250,000 that they did not have to hire a consultant to justify the plan of bringing BART into downtown Livermore. That is not something that American citizens want to see. You are, as I said earlier, you are forcing the plan on these cities despite your pretty words about it not really being forced, that they have a choice. You are forcing it. The other component I want to say about the story of Livermore is that Alameda County, 1.2 million people in Alameda County voted on a measure called Measure D, which set up an urban growth boundary. I have a rancher in Livermore whose ranch is outside that urban growth boundary. He still is on that property, but the issue is he cannot build a house for his sons That property has been in his family for 4 generations. You have effectively taken his property by administrative taking without physically taking the property away from him.
That's
Again, I will tell you, this is not acceptable in America. We are a free country. We are a free people. We have the right to property. That is a basic right guaranteed by the Constitution, by Article 5 of the Constitution. And your plan and your whole policy in this effort, and I see you shaking your head, and I really want you to explain about this rancher. Because what ended up happening is 1.2 million people, majority rule, that's called a mob. We don't have mob rule in this country. We have a representative democracy. And what that means is that property rights are sacred. And you had no business doing that Measure D.
Government is supposed to protect private property.
If I could maybe respond without comment here, I mean, let me answer. I mean, what you've been talking about and what everybody's been talking about. What everybody's been talking about most tonight is give us a chance to vote on this, okay? That's what people are feeling, is you actually do not have the chance to vote. Measure D was just referred to and then looked at me and said, you did this. First of all, Measure D was put on the agenda by the people. It was put on the ballot by the people. It was voted by the people.
What people?
I did not. Huh?
When you say by the people,
the election, it was a vote.
But there's usually some organizations that are not really concerned.
Well, you know what? I lived in Livermore at the time, and the phone call I got was from Jerry Brown in Oakland, saying, "Please vote for it." Okay? So, but you know what? Let me answer the question. The vote of Alameda County are the ones that did that. I put on a companion measure that basically was called Measure C, and that was to adopt the county general plan as it was. We failed. Measure D passed. That was a vote of the people. Now, if you want to turn it over, you have to have a vote of the people to do it. Okay? But don't hold the elected officials for that. Because Alameda County voters voted for that.
If we fought, I understand.
And there's nobody that fights more for property rights than me.
Okay, my response to that is that private property is not something that the majority votes on. Private property is private property. And that property owner is the person that should have the authority to sell his property and do what he wants with it. So that was basically an illegal petition. That was an illegal Measure D, because that was the mob. That was two. That was okay. That was two wolves and a sheep voting on what was for dinner.
All right.
And that's what you did.
No, it was Alameda County voting for it.
I know, but that was an illegal thing. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And let's respect our 3-minute rule just so everybody has the same opportunity to speak. Thank you.
I'll keep it brief. Thank you for standing up through the firing line. As somebody who's running for elected office, I feel the pain of the people who have been elected. I know there are a lot of politicians in the room that are elected. There are people who are controlling our lives who are not elected. And there are people who are looking to run for office. And the word vote keeps coming up. What I would like is some indulgence in taking a hand vote of how many people are in support of the measure or the plan for the Bay Area currently as they understand it, and how many are opposed.
Good idea.
And so can we do a hand vote of how many people are for it? Well, as you understand it currently, I'm curious as to whether or not you support the bill, a raise of hand, or support the plan, raise of hands.
There is no plan.
So with there being no plan, are you in opposition of the plan as you understand it?
Make it clear before you get the vote. What do you want?
I want to know if the people that are here, all I've heard is opposition to the plan. I would like to know the majority of the room is in favor or in opposition to the plan as they understand it.
All in favor?
All in favor. All in favor of the plan, raise your hand.
As we know it.
As you understand it.
As we know it. There's no plan. There is no plan.
There is a plan process. You can be for the plan. And you realize this one.
How many are against the process?
Are you against the process that's being used to do it? That would be pretty much representative of the majority of the room.
Oh, I don't think so.
Mob rules.
Our next speaker.
Well, thank you. I'm Tim Frank, and I'm the director of the Center for Sustainable Neighborhoods. I'm also, I realize that there are some here who may think that that's wrong. Better?
Start over.
No. I'm Tim Frank, and I'm the director of the Center for Sustainable Neighborhoods. I'm a resident of a city. I'm a resident of this region. I'm a resident of this state, and I'm a resident of this country, and I want to see leadership across all of those levels. And I am proud when I see communities actually talking with each other and developing strategies to work strategically to advance our common interests. In this region, we face a real challenge, getting people around, providing the housing for the workforce. You ask any of the major employer groups in this area, and they will tell you that one of the principal challenges they face going forward to building a robust economy in this area is making sure that there's enough housing for the workforce. And what we have here is a conversation around how we can do that and do it most efficiently and do it in a way that will provide the highest quality of life for the most people in this region and will allow us to be more competitive with other regions around the country and around the world. And I think that this is a critically important task. I appreciate the fact that you've been willing to invest the energy in doing this, and I appreciate the process that you're engaging in here and soliciting input, getting that input from all stakeholders, which includes residents and also includes the multitude of elected officials. And I think that everybody who's participating should be proud to make a contribution, and I think that it's really important that we continue this work and that we stay on schedule, that we get the job done. And I have my own opinions about how it should look. I do think that that the plan that we have seen in draft form has actually moved this conversation forward productively, considering a way to actually provide more inclusive neighborhoods, provide more housing choices and more transportation choices that will allow most people in this region to actually have a higher quality of life moving forward. And I think that's what we're working for. And I'm really proud to see you all working under intense pressure and continuing to hold your head high and do a good job. Thank you.
And how much are you all being paid? How much are you getting paid?
Not enough.
Not enough.
Come on down, please.
Good evening. First of all, I don't think you've been thanked enough. Thank you for having this public forum. I think it's an important part of the public process, and I appreciate that you're having the meetings like this throughout the Bay Area. So thank you. Second of all, two recommendations that I have for you as you move forward. The first is, at the beginning of tonight's meeting, you put forward
your 3 minutes.
At the beginning of tonight's meeting, you put forward your schedule for how you anticipate this process going forward. Okay? As we all know, planning processes do take significantly longer. Okay? I would encourage you to rethink the way that that's being presented, because while you're anticipating completing this project by early 2013, I anticipate that it will take longer based on the comments that you had this evening and a desire for more opportunities to speak. I, like you, work for a government agency, and I will give you an example. We've been working on a downtown-specific plan for our community. It was anticipated, like your schedule, that it would take 1 to 2 years to complete that process. We're now 5 years into it, over 100 public meetings. Okay? That's for one small area. This is for the entire Bay Area. So that's something for you to keep forward. Hopefully you don't have as lengthy of a process, but it in all likelihood will be longer than what you've experienced. Second of all, MTC and ABAG a few years ago created the priority development areas as well as the priority conservation areas. This is a comment that I've made previously with meetings with your staff members. While I think it's a concept that can work, I don't see that it's worked as well as it can to date. Okay? Local jurisdictions are dependent upon those areas, establishing those areas for their communities, because it directly relates to possible funding opportunities that they have for a multitude of improvements. The problem that I see with those two programs is they're separate. You have your priority development areas, which is more about growth, and transportation infrastructure, et cetera. And then you have your conservation areas, which are more about preserving open space, okay? You've had many, many funding opportunities for your priority development areas. You've had next to no opportunities for your priority conservation areas. My recommendation to you as you go forward with this plan is to merge those two processes so that if there is a community that is having additional traffic, additional growth, additional housing, additional jobs, that same community, through the same program, also receives funding for open space and conservation efforts.
Take people's land.
Okay, thank you.
Private property.
On to the next. Thank you.
No private property. Thank you for staying here and listening. There's a big picture here. Most of the people in this room know what the big picture is. All of the most important decisions on this subject have all been made. They've been made by big developers.
That's right.
And high-density growth advocacy groups. And we were not at the table when all those decisions were made. But now here, in the public portion of this process, we are allowed to comment on the minor details of the decisions. Things that don't matter too much after the big pieces are all in place. And we're expected to vote without adequate information and with vague wording and ambiguous questions. That's why this process is a sham. Another reason this process is a sham is that the Metropolitan Transportation Commission is not a democratically elected commission. These individuals who sit on it are not elected for this purpose. They are elected for other offices. And they are not accountable to anybody. We can't vote them out. Yep. That's the second reason why this process is a sham. And how does MTC work in many communities? Well, I think it works a lot like it does in Berkeley, where our elected officials don't even report to the citizens what they're doing at MTC. We've asked the council members and the mayor to do that regularly, and they don't do it. Even worse, they directly misrepresent the views of the citizens. Now, we had a bus rapid transit issue, and all of you MTC people know a lot about that. Mayor Bates knew full well that the citizens were overwhelmingly opposed to bus rapid transit on Telegraph. And yet at every single MTC meeting, how did Mayor Bates vote? Any guesses? He voted in favor of it at every single meeting. There's a major disconnect between MTC and the public. And forums like this don't help. I have to tell people a story. A friend of mine tried to register for this conference. I know you guys are not listening there, you're chatting. I'll wait for a minute.
I'm actually just trying to get more time so we can finish getting more speakers. Not everything is bad, sir.
Oh, I just asked if you would be listening. A friend of mine tried to register for this the conference in Santa Rosa at 7:30 in the morning on the day registration first opened.
Excuse me.
She did not receive.
Could you, this gentleman who had his 3 minutes, he has lobbied all the way across here. I can't even hear anymore.
Okay, so please in the audience, if you be respectful of the speakers and keep your if you want to go outside to speak, that's fine.
People do need to know this. She registered immediately, and she did not receive any confirmation. And then she saw on the website, all the conferences are closed, no more registration. She was very concerned. And then a couple weeks after that, she got a letter from the Greenbelt Alliance. She's on their mailing list. And guess what that letter said? We need people to sign up for this conference because we need to have the views of our group represented there. Something funny's going on here with how the attendance at these events has been manipulated.
Exactly.
Okay, can you wrap up, please?
Yes, I would be happy to wrap up. Some of the main ways that MTC works is I'm wrapping up. Okay, I got.
Please, we're running
Yes, I know.
Trying to educate
I'm
the
going.
public here.
I almost became apoplectic watching the video at the beginning of this event because many of the people that were in the video saying, "We really want public comment. We want to listen to you. We care about what you say." Those very people have treated the public with so much contempt at every MTC meeting I've been attending for the last 20 years.
Right.
It's inexcusable how they treat the public at those events. They interrupt them, they cut them off, they don't look at them, and then during the rest of the meeting after public comment, they deride their comments. Throughout the whole meeting, it's utterly disrespectful. That proves how little they care about public opinion. This is absolutely unusual. I can't believe that they're even listening. I have never seen it in any of my attendance at any of these meetings. This whole process should be shut down and started all over again with adequate public involvement from the very start. It's a sham to do it this way.
I would just like to make a couple comments. I'm opposed to the plan as it is, and I think that this, from what I've seen, this is the first I've attended, and the questions I've seen have been pretty well staged for the results that you want. And I would like to see, like the last gentleman who spoke, I would like to see this start over, begin again, with some real public input. And my next comment would be that the plan is going to involve a lot of property to make the plans they want to do. So I believe it is controlling the people, and also involves a great loss of property rights. And I think we should be concerned about that, every one of us. Because someday it's going to be on your front door, and they're going to be knocking on your door telling you to pack your bags and get out. So I appreciate my time. Thank you.
It was said that this plan would not affect private property rights, and that's not true. This plan is all about affecting private property rights. This plan calls for the rezoning of private property to mixed multi-use or open space or whatever you want to do, so that you can utilize that property, or so you can decide how that property is going to be used rather than the private property owner. By rezoning a property to open space, you are virtually making that property worthless for the person that owns it. You don't have a right to vision on somebody's private property and call it open space. There's over 1 million acres right now in the Bay Area of protected open space. If this is government property, you can do whatever you want. But when you ask the public to vision somebody else's private property to be unusable so that everybody else can enjoy looking at it, that to me is disgusting. Yep. I'm a realtor. Not only that, but when you do that, it becomes worthless. If our public officials are going to use our tax dollars to buy up open space so that we have a pretty view to look at and take somebody's property, even if they're willing, it's taking it off of the tax roll. So now our cash-strapped cities and counties don't even have the tax base for that. We are broke in California. I find the fact that the rezoning is in SB 375, it tells the local jurisdictions to pick a priority development area and then rezone it, regardless of what the current use of that property is. Regardless. That could be a single-family residential neighborhood that's been well established and there for 30 years. And now we're just going to rezone it without telling the citizens that we're doing it. So people that have lived there all their lives are now going to have their properties rezoned. For what? The greater good? Because we want to put multi-use stack and pack housing next to mass transit? So when you say the property values aren't going to be affected, that's absolutely not true. This bill calls for it, and in fact, the local jurisdictions can be sued if they don't do it.
Thank you. Well, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more folks here.
I have a question. At the end of this thing, could each, I just had this thought. Could each of you individually summarize what you heard tonight?
Give us your feedback.
That's why it's on camera. Go ahead. Why don't you do it?
Could you do that?
Excellent suggestion.
Good evening. Thanks for staying.
So I grew up in the Bay Area. I currently live on the other side of the hills. I want to give you two perspectives that I really haven't heard tonight. Some communities in the Bay Area are already very dense, and we need investments in livability before we need investments in massive amounts of new housing. Now that was not the case in your earlier plans for my community of Berkeley. You proposed, or the ABAG staff proposed something like 35,000 new residents, which would be more than a 30% increase in the population of Berkeley. Now, I live in a neighborhood that has a density of over 10,000 people a square mile. My neighborhood doesn't have a park. Now, I've gone to the Planning Commission and the City Council and said, can we work on a plan for a park? And the answer is, well, there's no land and there's no funding. So I want to emphasize that point that we need the livability investments into denser communities before automatically adding the new housing. Your scenarios have gotten a little bit better. In the one last year, Berkeley had about 30,000 residents proposed. Piedmont had, I think it was 22 new residents proposed. Now Berkeley has, I think, about 20,000 new residents proposed, and Piedmont has about 1,800. I think I will age and die before I see 1,800 people move into Piedmont, but at least that's a start. The second point I want to make, though, is that this process lionizes the efforts that were made in the 60s and 70s to begin to recognize environmentalism in the Bay Area, to start regional planning. And there were a lot of accomplishments then. Save the Bay, improving water quality, improving air quality. And one of the things, though, that all the people who were active then and were advocating for those things talked about were limits to growth. And they talked about, honestly, how many people can live in the Bay Area? What is our maximum capacity on environmental grounds, on the grounds of how many people can fit into a community and still have it be a livable community? Nowhere in this process have I ever heard anybody, any of the public officials, any of the planners, talk about what is the limits to growth. So the assumption from the very beginning has been, well, we're going to grow. Your video said it that way. It starts out, we're going to grow, and let's figure out where we're going to put those people. That's basically just kicking the can down the road, because 30 years from now, we'll have another process, and it'll start out. We're going to grow, and that's not planning. So I would really encourage you to include in this a component of how many people can effectively live in the Bay Area, not just assume that people will grow here and will have no control over that. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jill Ratner, and I work with a group called New Voices Are Rising. We're a project of the Rose Foundation for Communities and the Environment in Oakland. And I'm here with a group of high school students who have come from Oakland to find out a little bit about how our government works and how public processes work. And I think it's probably been very educational. I think, I have to say that while I have not agreed with many things that people have said, it certainly has been helpful to me to hear the kind of things that people are concerned about. So for me, it's been very educational as well. And I do appreciate the fact that you have made this possible. My biggest concern, I think, is fairly similar to some of the more recent comments. I'm concerned that we make sure that we build livable communities. And I really think that building livable, complete communities is the best way to reduce the amount of time we spend in our cars and the amount of greenhouse gases that we emit. And I do think that takes a little bit of social engineering. And I think we have to create incentives. We have to find money for good schools. We have to find money for good parks. We have to figure out a way to have housing for low-income people so that the people who work in the stores that other people shop in have a place to live that's close to where they work. And I think all of that is important, and I appreciate the fact that that seems to be coming more into the process. And I hope that as the process moves forward, you guys will continue to look for ways to incentivize
and engineer those kind of things into the plan for the Bay Area. Thank you very much.
Okay, hi, my name is Tanika. I am an Open Tech senior. I am in the inaugural class of the Green Academy, and I'm here with Jill and a couple other people. For the last couple of days in our class, they've been in our classroom showing us a bunch of the different sites that is a part of this plan. Like, for example, the Zephyr Gate and MacArthur Bart Transit Village, and a lot of other places. And while I think that mixed income is like a good idea, at the same time we need to make sure that the businesses around the area is not going to be going towards a higher end of the income, not necessarily the lower end, because that makes things too expensive for other people who live there. And for a meeting like this to be taking place in Dublin, when one of the areas that's most affected is in Oakland, this just seems like really inconvenient. This is like a 30-40 minute car ride here. So I feel like if we were really trying to get people's opinions from who are actually being most affected by this, it should have been in Oakland, not in Dublin. This is a bit too far for most people who actually have to work all the time in order to make a living at wherever they live. And there's also the idea of making sure that there's transit everywhere so people can get where they need to go. Because right now, since the buses got cut, it's a lot harder for a lot of the people I know and people I am around a lot to get to places that they need to be going to. And like Jill has said, they make sure there are houses that people can live in that are near their work and they won't be at risk of losing their job because they can get there on time a lot. There's also the thing with like schools are also being cut, so instead of like trying to make a really expensive house for the people, it would be more effective to like try to put the money into developing like schools, giving more money to schools, trying to develop areas that people live in, or trying to help the buses instead of making really expensive areas for people to move into when you're really just displacing all the people who already live there. And yeah.
Good. I just want to ask you a question about why we're here in Dublin as opposed to Oakland. As an MTC commissioner, I have often felt that South and East County does not get these kind of hearings, and so I asked that it be here. It's also been under the thought that the Richmond, when is Richmond?
Next week.
Next week is Richmond, and we often felt that, or I felt anyways, that the people up in Oakland could go to Richmond and be a little easier for them. So, I mean, that's why I wanted it down here, and that's why we're here.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
23rd, Monday.
And thank you for being so patient and listening to all of us. I know you guys have really good intentions, but I think you're making plans based on assumptions that may be incorrect. Certainly the global warming debate and greenhouse gases is one of them, but even more important than that, and which I know a little bit more about, is the idea that government can create jobs. They can by reducing regulations. We know that if you want a robust economy, you need new startups, you need new companies. Those are the kinds of people I've been working with for the last 25 years. And many of those people have left the state. Dan Logue, who is in the state legislature, he went to the state next door, Las Vegas, and he found many of the California companies that settled there. And it was about regulations, taxes too, but regulations. Sometimes laws are passed and lawyers don't, I mean, lawyers may try to figure out what they are, but the laws are written so ambiguously that, so they won't offend any of the politicians, so that the employer doesn't know what to do. And it's case law and the lawyers who determine which is nuts. That's California. Texas, which has none of the resources we do, has been growing jobs like mad due to small regulation. Their legislature doesn't even meet every year. It meets maybe half a year, once every 2 years. Our regulations, our laws are ridiculous. They're creating employers fleeing the state, and all the transportation in the world won't get them back here if they can't make a profit. Private business has to make a profit. And to make a profit, they need to hire good people, they need to give them good benefits, and that has been what has happened in the past in California. And in the last few years, the only jobs growing have been taxpayer jobs and government jobs. And thank you for listening.
If you believe in like collectivism, socialism, the government knows all and should watch out after the citizen and should make decisions for you, go home, sleep well tonight. You're winning. You're doing great. If you believe in property rights, freedom, liberty, and that you need to decide for your own self and your own family and your own community at the local level, you should be scared to death and you should not be sleeping tonight because they are kicking our butt, folks. They're going to win this. And 40 years from now, the San Francisco Bay Area is going to be one big collective high-density housing community unless we stand up and we fight this. This has been a big sham, and unless these meetings change going forward, let's see how it goes in the next meetings. If it's the same kind of crap we're seeing right now, we've lost it, folks. California's doomed, and America's doomed. You got to stand up.
We're going to continue to watchdog, so we will be here.
Well, that was a nice lead in there. I'm looking at all of you elected officials up there.
There's only two.
Who? Really? These other people here, you're not elected?
No, they're staff.
Oh, okay.
And I would only know it at the other forums.
Okay, then I'll direct my comments to the two elected officials here. Okay? You guys took an oath of office to support and uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. You should be thinking about the Constitution every breath. You're working for the people. You answer to us. We're paying your wages, and this sham of a show here with you guys practically turning against us has gotten us pissed off, and that's why we're here tonight. You guys are old enough to have gone through Constitution class in school, and I don't know if they're teaching Constitution anymore. But as the gentleman before me said, self-determination is a big part of that. Okay? But you guys are trampling over our rights. And the rights that are given to us in the Constitution. Yes, you are.
Sir,
yes, you are.
Sir, there is a proposed plan in front of the community, and we are standing here listening.
You're supposed to be protecting our rights.
Let me
private
finish.
property
I
rights.
did
You
not
guys are enacting laws that are allowing environmentalists to run all over us.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That's right.
I'm listening.
Does anybody else in the audience agree with that? Sir, I think you're outvoted.
I'm here to listen to public input on a proposed plan, and that's what you don't understand.
You're getting my public input because I'm a taxpayer and I'm a voter.
And
I'm going to be watching for both of your names when they come up on the ballot.
And you know what?
Thank you very much.
What I wish, we're the first two elected officials that have stuck around at these things.
Yeah.
Thank you. You should hear that.
We need to get more elected officials down here.
And make sure you kill the ones that stay.
Call them up. Get them down here.
Let's keep going. Thank you. All right.
I have a couple of things to say. One, I'm a little bit disappointed that this side of the hills doesn't have more representation on the committees because our problems are entirely different out here, which nobody seems to understand.
On what committee, ma'am? I'm sorry.
ABAG and MTC. When you look at all these things, there's not that much representation. At least the prior meetings haven't given us this impression because there's a lot of...
Because it hasn't been in their communities. That's why we're here.
Yes. And so that's concerning to all of us here because we feel kind of like we need to get our word out too. But the other thing is that when you have this sustainable developments that they're talking about, it's always we want to have the people housed where their jobs are. What you're doing if you have all the industrial people living and working here, then you have all your scientists that are working over here at the lab living here. You're creating communities that are no longer socially diverse. So this is not social equality. It's dividing people again. That's it.
Well, I'm back again. I just have
Last two comments, folks. Thanks.
Two little short stories. I have a friend that's in real estate, and recently he was told he had a warehouse that he rented out, and was recently told that if he didn't have it rented out for a length of at least 3 months, that he would have to raise the building and then it would be zoned residential. That was actually mandated. Now that's the same sort of thing that's going to happen here. Doesn't matter who did it. I'm not blaming anyone here. I'm just saying that's what our government does to us. Second case is my in-laws had property in the Altamont where the train runs through. That property was deeded to them over 100 years ago. And the fact was that when the railroad would abandon the property, would revert to the original owners. Guess what happened? East Bay Parks got it. They basically confiscated the property. Almost went all the way to the Supreme Court, but they turned it down because they said they were too busy. That's what's going to happen to all of us at some point down the line. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I don't know what your summarization is going to be, but I do want to say this. This is a 180. Yes. And the hair on everybody's neck has been up because they were refuted from being received properly. And it is the responsibility of the facilitator to create a safe and honorable session. The thing we talk about sustainability, I just can't help but make a comment here. When you sell the people who don't have a lot, that they can have all of these programs and all of this subsidized transportation, that money has to come from the businesses. It has to come from those tax dollars. So when you're weighing this business that you're responsible for, you have to weigh, are you keeping business intact here? Because if you have so much regulation, so much social programs, and you're basically fundamentally leaving people in a position where they can never get out. And then what happens to California? We already know, you all know, that we're in very poor shape. It amazes me that you can even stand in front of us and not be ashamed that you want these kinds of dollars to continue to come out of the middle class. And many of these people are merely 6 months to a year from themselves losing what they have. Creating this class warfare is not helping the poor. It is keeping them where they're at. One of the things that should happen in California that all of you should be helping us with, you see propositions. The number of lies and deceit that is allowed in the marketing of these things so that people are manipulated to vote improperly, or they're so confused that there's no wonder that the people who work 11 hours a day between getting to work and getting home can't even figure it out. I know college-educated people, I know a lot of them. They don't even know or understand. They don't have the time. You need to be able to look in the mirror. It's not these benefit plans you guys get. It's not your salary we're worried about. It's representing us. We need to keep California. I said this in an early meeting. Okay, I'll wrap it up. We need to keep California strong. And you're not going to keep it strong, and you're not going to help the poor, and you're not going to be able to continue to subsidize transportation if you don't keep business strong. And again, thank you. And I really am looking forward to each of your summarization of what you got out of this meeting. Thank you.
My name's Robert Allen. I have a little different perspective than much has been offered here tonight. I would particularly like to thank Supervisor Haggerty and Mayor Green for the work that they're doing of the Alameda County Transportation Plan, which is separate from MTC, I realize. If you really want one bay area, the thing to do is to get BART around the bay. To merge the BART and Caltrain districts, perhaps under a new joint powers agency, which would provide for one rail system which would link the entire Bay Area. The BART started as a 3-county joint powers agency with a bond issue of $792 million back in 1962, a bond issue that's been paid off. And I would like to see such MTC try to bring about a joint powers agency to explore the possibility of BART around the bay, over to beyond the Altamont, to the Golden Gate and Carquinez bridges. One set of trains, BART gauge, and it would be I think it would be quite possible with a bond issue less than the bond issue was for BART in 1962. Anyway, thank you very much for the work you've been doing.
Thank you. Okay, I want to thank all of you for sticking around and your patience, and also adhering to our ground rules for tonight. I think hopefully you felt this was a productive listening session. I want to thank the elected officials, Supervisor Haggerty and Mark Green, the Mayor of Union City, once again for staying here with us, for being engaged with us tonight. Our staff members from MTC and ABAG and all the staff members that were assisting tonight.
MTC and ABAG give us their summary, or
Yeah.
at least their initial feelings about what they've heard this evening.
Yeah.
Why can't we get some feedback?
Right, maybe just a couple of statements,
Couple of minutes
we can't
each. 3
possibly
minutes each.
reprise all 2 hours that we've heard. And let me just also say that we've been taking notes on this board. We also have an audio recording of the comments from tonight, just so that you know that we have been documenting and recording those things. So I don't know, just a final maybe word of closing from you, Ken, and from the others here to demonstrate listening.
I think I would summarize by saying clearly people want to be heard. They don't believe that through this process that they've been adequately heard in terms of their concerns. And that's a theme that we really need to recognize to make this successful. So I do thank you all for sharing your views tonight.
So, and along those lines, we're going to be embarking on our work product, which is going to be describing the process and having it better understood. I think that's our homework assignment for the next week.
Let me say this, sometimes we get characterized as being social engineers and everything else. And I think Scott, and I would include Scott in the next comment also, probably the last 2 guys in our county that you would accuse of being social engineers were the 2 people standing here. That's how ridiculous some of the statements actually were tonight. To be completely candid, you want candid feedback, you're getting it. I deal the cards face up off the top of the deck. Many of your comments has validity, which I actually agree with. I am not, as I said earlier, let me just give you sort of the panorama here. I'm probably the most liberal guy here from the sense of liberal meaning actually being able to tolerate a wide variety of behavior and a wide variety of attitudes. And also seeing that there are a wide number of solutions to all of our problems. It was mentioned earlier about local streets and roads. I come from a city, out of the 101 cities in the Bay Area, which is ranked 8th in terms of the best road pavement. So yes, we take a lot of pride in Union City about having good quality roads. The county of Alameda, I believe, is one of the better counties in terms of the counties inside the 9 Bay areas also. So yes, we're both well aware of the necessities for local streets and road maintenance. We're both aware of also that there still needs to be, yes, I'll even say the word, freeway improvements in the Bay Area. I agree to that. fact, I think that I could give you probably 15 right off the top of my head. But again, realistically, I mean, just being candid, are we in a majority on that? No, we're not. But I'll keep going. I also sit in Union City as a Union City Transit director. That means we run our own bus system. So yes, I'm well aware of what it means to raise rates, change routes, buy equipment, on and on and on, as a bus operator, so to speak. So I'm aware of that. In that, as a quick aside on that, I would also say this: at MTC, we're undergoing a transit sustainability project right now. And I'll stand here and tell you right now, yes, out of the 28 transit agencies that we have in the Bay Area, should that be consolidated? Should that be minimized? Should that be reduced? Yes, it should be. That there are efficiencies to be gained, which we aren't experiencing right now in transit. As Mr. Allen mentioned earlier, ideally I'd agree with him. You know, there was a lot of mistakes made earlier that, you know, we have to deal with right now in 2012. Some of those mistakes were that Santa Clara County and San Mateo County originally did not get on board with BART. I think in the meantime they've seen their errors in that way, and you know, we're getting BART, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we're getting BART into Santa Clara County now.
Are they going to pay for it?
Hang on.
They are.
Yeah,
they are.
You've had your chances. You want my response or not? Okay.
Yes, we did.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, there needs to be increased rail. I'm also in favor of increased rail. I think that BART should go to Livermore. I think that BART should get in deep into Santa Clara County. I think Dunbarton Brown needs to go from our county into San Mateo County. So yes, I'm in favor of increased rail. I also know, as Scott knows also, that in our county, AC Transit does have a set of problems. Do I think AC Transit should be eliminated? No. There is a demand, there is a need for bus transportation in the Bay Area, and we have to acknowledge that. Keep going farther in that direction. Bikes, pedestrians, paratransit, all of those things have their own necessities also. We're working in our county, and again, as I mentioned to Scott earlier tonight, this group of people, with some exceptions, I'll admit that, but in its totality, this group of people, which is good for us to hear from because it's sort of the antithesis of what we hear in many other forums. We sat in a meeting, was it last Monday? No, a week ago today. A week ago today, we were in a meeting with our transportation expenditure plan, where the advocates, so to speak, would be much different from most of the people in here tonight. And you know, we had our own set of problems with that one. So we, unlike, and again, I tell everybody the same thing. I expect you to advocate as vociferously and as passionately as you possibly want to or can on what you believe in. I accept that. You, in return, have to realize that we have a wide spectrum of constituents, not all of which are represented here today. And I'll be quite honest with you. The audience, I look at this audience right now, this is unbelievably different than what I see at a council meeting in Union City. I mean, it's a complete flop, as it would be in Oakland when we go to a transportation meeting there. So we have a spectrum of interests that we have to absorb. We have our own outlook on life. And all of those things go into what we end up doing as a final decision. So the input tonight, not that I agree with all of it, some strands of it I do, but I don't pretend here to say that everything said tonight is going to be implemented ultimately. I think there's a fundamental disagreement in some cases. I mean, we talked about the social engineering part. You talked about the freedom. Are you Americans? Yes, well, I am an American. I'm from Illinois. Yes, you know, the land of Lincoln. So yes, I can. You know, I'll stand up for my patriotism. I guess anybody in this room, for that matter. So we have to realize, though, that everybody in here has their own interests. Everybody's organization has their own interests. This is a representative democracy, and some of the agreement, just as a quick aside, a couple of things we mentioned. Some people mentioned about MTC not being an elected body. For the most part, actually, it is. It's indirectly elected, if you want to call it that way. There are some proposals. Again, for those of you who are actually interested specifically in that item, there are some proposals being floated around now to perhaps change the composition of MTC and how people actually get onto that particular board. So again, if you actually are truly interested in that, I would suggest you start talking to some state legislatures, which would be needed probably to change that. So with that, I Didn't expect to stay this long in the great city of Dublin tonight, but it's always worthwhile coming out here on the east side of the hill. So I'm glad everybody came out. Scott?
Sorry, I've been wanting to do this all night. A couple months ago, I broke my heel, and sometimes it starts hurting. But can you hear me without this?
Yeah.
Okay. Mark said a lot, and usually after Mark speaks, it's kind of the reason I'm his vice chair on the ACTC. There's not a lot left for me, but if you ask me what I heard the most tonight, I heard frustration, and that's why at 8:50. When we were supposed to be out of here 45 minutes ago, I said, as I was being accused of not listening, which I was, I was telling staff we need to stay, and I was willing to stay till 11 if we had to. Now I'm not encouraging you to go call your buddies right now, but I think there's a lot of I am so happy. You don't understand. I'm happy you people are here. I really am. I wish you would go to MTC meetings.
Oh, we will.
Thank you. Thank you. Because you know what? I can't tell you how many times, as a supervisor that represents Livermore, Dublin, and Fremont, I have called the chambers and said, please get business down here. I need business down here for this issue. Can't tell you how many times.
Well,
Hold on. Whoa. This is not interactive.
Oh,
This is not interactive. I have listened.
Okay. You have.
And so, I was sitting here and I was kind of, earlier, hour ago, my chief of staff came to me and said, get out of here. And I didn't do it. But I will say this. I think it's important that you have a message. And I think, what I don't think people understand, you still can change this plan. And I'm going to tell you. Not the way you did it tonight. Not by over-talking people, not by shouting, but to email us as commissioners. I'm sorry. I've gotten 33 emails today on the TEP, Transportation Expenditure Plan, and I'm reading them. Okay? I've gotten 33 emails. If you don't believe me, I'll pull out my iPhone right now and show you. So we do get emails. I'm going to tell you, the advocates are better organized. I mean this sincerely, all of you, that you really are organized now. And that you really are going to start attending ABAG meetings. Mayor Green just stepped down as the president of ABAG. Do you know how he was there for 2 years? How many people spoke under public comment at ABAG?
Probably a handful.
At most. He's being generous.
They're not centrally located, the meetings in the Bay Area.
They're
moving this
No,
They're
well,
open.
they're at.
And they're moving. Okay, they're moving. Okay? Mayor Green and myself are the two no votes that voted not to move.
Good.
Okay?
We appreciate that.
Okay. You're welcome on that. But you know what? We needed help.
Well, now change the time so we can get to
her.
The media also does not give information out to the public. We're trying to run businesses,
There's so many
raise our
meetings.
families, commute, and do everything for 11 or 12 hours a day. We look to our elected officials to apprise us. We look to the media to apprise us, and they don't do it.
Okay.
So
Let me
because
just-
of this
okay, let
young
me just
lady
keep
right
talking.
here who
Let me
started
just
the
keep
ball
talking for a
rolling,
minute.
and Mimi.
Like I said, I'm really
We're now
happy.
becoming
Okay,
educated.
again, this isn't interactive because I didn't
Thank you.
interrupt. I don't think I interrupted. Well, one guy.
Oh.
But this is not done, and that's what I think. This whole thing reminded me of redistricting.
Yeah.
Okay, and please don't interrupt me because I'm going to get this out.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, guys, but when redistricting came about, I'm District 1. So whose district do you think went first in Alameda County? Mine. So they came to me and they said, you got a redistricting meeting next week. And I said, okay, what do we got? What's the agenda? Well, we don't really have anything. We haven't really given anything. Nobody submitted any maps. And they said, and I'm not going to give you the entire story, but they said, nobody submitted any maps. And I looked at my chief of staff and I said, what do you think? And he said, well, we should ask staff to make a map. And I said, make a map. That was it. They said, what's your absolute? And I gave them one absolute. That's what I'm not going to tell you. Well, I better now that I said this. There's a council member, or there's a person in Pleasanton that wanted to run against me. And I said, whatever you do not take that person out of my district. So they went out and they drew a map.
So it was your decision, it wasn't any other.
No. See, this is where you're wrong. You know what? I'm getting right to you. So if you would let me do this.
Educate me now.
So what I said is, make a map. Here's my one absolute, make a map. So staff went off and made the map. And when I came back, and we went to that hearing, because I encouraged staff to make the map, that then became the Haggerty map. That wasn't my map, but that was to start discussion. That was to get people thinking, okay? That was to get the public input. That's why you're here, and this is what you don't understand. You show up and you're already mad, frustrated. I get some of it. I get some of it. We're your friends tonight. We're here to listen to you. We're here to digest what you say and take it back, and when we vote, understand what it is our constituents are saying. We need to, you know what? No. We need to drop the anger. You need to communicate via email. You need to come to these and not interrupt, but say, my God, this is wrong. You're taking people's property.
And I think that's why the emotion was so strong this evening.
Are we debating?
Well, no. This is the first time that two representatives, elected officials, have really stayed and listened honestly.
Yeah,
and I think you have had.
And did you hear that some guy thinks I'm a big fat jerk because, you know, here I am and I'm the root of all evil. That's what I'm getting at, the redistricting map. That's the gist of my story. Because we stayed, you focused your anger towards us.
No,
you took it out on us.
Well, then we apologize.
But that's okay. I'm a big boy. I'm going to go home and kick the dog.
But I just wanted to say quickly that,
Okay, look, the bottom line, look,
taking it out really on the way this process has worked.
But see, you're doing exactly what I'm saying doesn't work. Because I didn't hear anything you just said. And if you would have let me finish, and then I would have given you a few minutes, we would have both heard each other. So that's what I'm saying. It's okay to come with signs and hold them up. It's okay to speak your mind here. But do it in a respectful way. And you know what? Believe me, we talked about this at the commission meeting today. And they said, oh, Dublin's next. And I said, Dublin's different. We're going to do this different. Well, I don't know that it was different. But the meeting itself, no, I'm talking about the way it was going to go down. But the meeting itself, in my opinion, was different.
Yes, it was.
Okay? Please listen to what I'm saying. If you really want to be heard, do it here. Hold your signs. Send your emails. By God, call your state assembly person in your Senate. Why you're letting them off the hook, I have absolutely no idea. We're not. And the governor for the Measure D person was the one that called people in Livermore and said, vote for Measure D. Janet, are you here? Good. So, let's try this. If you do show up at the next meeting, let's try it a little different. And I will convey to my colleagues that you, the public, really want your elected officials to stay for the whole meeting. Okay?
In our next two meetings.
So if we can do this, let's try it.
Conducted just like this, it would be great. None of the prior meetings conducted by these research survey people have been in this fashion, where we've ever been able to give true, honest input. So thank you. We appreciate it.
I've listened. Mayor Green's listened.
Can I give you a compliment?
Are you one of those guys that compliment and then take it away?
Yeah, right.
No,
This is what, that's my brother.
He says from another mother.
This is what big boys do to gain respect. They stop, they listen, they take the heat, and then they gain respect. Thank you.
Absolutely. I prefer to finish on the high note myself.